got to ask you, does Cooper's shirt look like a prom dress?
It's definitely got a little, like, 80s prom vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but here's the thing, it's like, I like polka dots, and I like the 80s, so there's nothing wrong.
It's a puff sleeve shirt that it's like one of those puff sleeve shirts that everybody, it's new. It's not from the 80s, so both of you.
It's a puffy shirt. It's a puffy shirt.
Exactly.
A low talker convinced you to wear it on the show tonight. You didn't understand what she was saying, but she's already got many orders for them, so we'll just go along with the fact that it's great.
I'm not going to let you both shame me out of my cute little big puffy sleeve.
Listen, I'm the original 80s hair girl. So
That's true.
Get any pushback from me? I'd like to live in that era for the rest of my life. So
We'll play some music for you, Cooper, because we're flashing back to the 80s tonight with Phil Collins. Fit your shirt.
I wouldn't know. I wasn't born yet.
So Phil Collins. Anyway.
I'm talking to a guy in a Hanes tank top t-shirt, like a Hanes t-shirt that he found.
It's actually not a Hanes t-shirt,
at
but
an
okay.
Amazon like discount sale. He goes to this Amazon. Like when you return something at Amazon, he lives near that place. Like there's a big giant warehouse where like anything that gets returned at Amazon, they throw it in a bin and he goes and buys it. So that's what he's wearing. His $2 Hanes t-shirt.
Yeah, I learned, by the way, if you actually really do that, like, don't do that. I once bought a pair of sundry leggings off of eBay, and they had supposedly were brand new. And I looked inside, and there was a little surprise skid mark situation.
No.
And I was like so horrified. And I the woman was like, "Can I see a picture of it?" And I was like, "I don't want to like open it back up again." It was like the most traumatic thing. So I do not buy clothes from like sketchy people or who have been in sketchy people's houses anymore.
Okay, so now I'm definitely not taking fashion advice from you. This shirt is fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have any poo marks on it. Zero.
Mm-hmm. So did you send it back to eBay or the person from eBay?
God, it was like toxic. I had to like get gloves and I like sent those to eBay. Like, I don't want to touch it. It's toxic. I went, but finally they gave me my money back, and I like wrote a scathing review on eBay because the woman was just being such a see you next Tuesday about it.
Mm-hmm.
Was she really?
Like seriously freaking horrible. Like, come on. Like, you didn't know somebody tried these on. Like, come on, dude.
Right.
And that's just disgusting. So
We work to be done. Let the music
stop.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So can I introduce Carol properly? Are you both done making fun of my shirt? Can we move on now? We got more music.
A flock of seagulls, Iran or something like that. Because I feel like
now we're
taking you like didn't really do the 80s justice.
We're taking requests now.
This is a very fashionable top. I'm just telling you. I got it at Zara.
Yeah, we're taking requests. So if you have an 80s request that you would like us to play because of Cooper's shirt.
We need like Duran Duran, some Karma Chameleon, or like Flock of Seagulls. Or maybe some hair metal. Okay, now I feel better about it.
Now you fit in, Cooper.
Okay.
It's 80s night.
I don't even know, how do you dance to 80s music?
I'm going to go get some cocaine in my DeLorean.
Dance to 80s music. Get some cocaine first.
Get some of that and then I'll figure it out.
I got to roll up my jeans a little bit. Okay, sorry.
Now I feel like I have to do my hair bigger. Closer to Jesus. I feel like my hair is too modern.
Oh, there she goes.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, she's got the hair, and I have the shirt. We should switch looks.
There you go. Friday hair day, Lizzie hair day.
Wait, that is the hair. Wait,
Yeah.
I need to wait. Hang on.
Oh, here we go. See, you guys never forget how to do it. That's the thing.
Like, this is like my whole shtick, though, right? Like, like, oh yeah, there you go. Okay, all right, now we got full 80s.
It's a little bigger. It's a little bit. It's a little bigger, not much.
Hey, Anthony, we need to get you some like guy liners.
Well, look at he has.
Oh my God.
It's always the 80s in his world. Look at his hair. He has so much product in it.
Yeah, deflect on me. The guy in the t-shirt.
We could just do a whole 80s show.
See, last night I was watching Elf. It was great. And Family Ties came on. Okay.
Okay, so what's the Alf trivia question? What's the animal that Alf likes to eat?
Cats.
All right.
You're not going to stick me on 80s trivia, trust me.
On the Alf trivia, clearly not.
No.
Okay.
Cooper.
All right. Oh, hi guys.
I was just was waiting for more 80s trivia. That's all.
Like literally, if you want to go there, like we could have a whole show about it.
Well, okay. Now I'm happy I wore this shirt today. I wasn't going to, but now I'm glad I did because it made Anthony laugh. All right. Well, this is our friend Carol Roth. You've seen her on our show before. You've seen her on CNBC, Fox Business, CNN. She is the host of her very own podcast, The Roth Effect, which she was so kind to have me on. And her latest book is The War on Small Business, which we've talked about before, but now I finally got myself a copy and I dug in. I read it cover to cover and fascinating.
That's a lot of pages.
And
did you write pages. Did you write all those pages?
So here's the crazy thing. I wrote 3.5 damn books during this pandemic.
Wow.
This last one was like 160,000 words, and they made me cull it back to 90,000. And that one has like 400 or 500 sources in it. So like, not only did I write all of those pages, I wrote many, many more. This was like a completely Herculean task that I signed up for, being like, oh, that's great, it's a pandemic, I'll write a little book about what's unfolding. Yeah, it was a big thing, so it's a relief to have it out.
This is a lot of pages.
There's words on every one of those pages.
Every single one of these pages has words. Every one of them.
Hold on.
And like lots of words. It's not even just like, it's not like a word a page.
The end that has no, because the way they print them, it's in 4 pages, 1, 2, 3, 4. So like everything has to be divisible by 4. So there is like in the beginning and the end, there is like a page or 2 that doesn't have any words. But
is Anthony, you trying to write right now?
This is all I think that for the past 2 years in her house. Where's your wife? She ain't coming out.
Writing. First of all, she got the big hair, so she can't see us, and she's just sitting there writing.
Yeah, I'm one of those crazy people who actually does I wrote both of my books. I'm not like one who hires some rando and like sticks my name on the front of it. So
yeah, Cooper.
I wrote the whole damn thing.
I have never had a ghostwriter in my life. That's why my books have not been successful.
Yeah, maybe you should reconsider that.
No, I should have had ghostwriters. That would have made a big difference. I probably would have had a hit book at that point. I stupidly wrote them myself too. The only difference is Carol's books do well. So before we get into the specifics of the book, so this book is interesting, The War on Small Business. It basically talks about how the pandemic has affected, how the government and the pandemic and rules and laws and whatever have affected small business worse than big business. But you really go into it and it's really fascinating. And some of the PPP loan stuff has come up lately in the world of celebrity. And I've been dying to ask you about this. Like as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, we're having Carol and I can't wait to ask her about this. So I follow the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I watch all the Real Housewives, but Beverly Hills is like my favorite one because there's like real drama that goes on. Like all the other ones, the drama is like, you didn't come to my party. Well, I was sick. Well, I heard you weren't sick. Like, who cares? No, these women have like real problems. Like Erica Jane's husband, Tom Girardi, I don't know if you saw the documentary on Hulu, but he's being accused of stealing millions of dollars from all of his clients and hiding the money in these companies that she has, all these LLCs that she supposedly owns. And she pretends she doesn't know anything about it. She'd never heard anything. She doesn't know where the money came from. It was a gift. So the one thing we learned today, or yesterday really, but I've been reading about it today, is that he was given a PPP loan of $1.5 million. Like, this guy is under investigation. He's declaring bankruptcy. He is not paying his employees. And allegedly, he didn't give that $1.5 million to the employees that he was supposed to give it to. So how did that happen? How does a PPP loan be given to somebody that is not going to be spending it like they're supposed to be spending it?
So the entire PPP situation, the payroll protection program, which was part of the overall CARES Act, which really was supposed to support small businesses that they had shut down and those employees that had been affected by the shutdown. If you just kind of back up, like, they got crumbs based on the fact that they were shut down by a government mandate versus all the other stupid money that they spend on their cronies. And it did not compensate them for basically subjugating their property rights for the good of society. But even worse than that is the way that they structured the PPP loan, especially in that first tranche that happened in March, is that they went back and they said, okay, well, you have to be of a certain size, but the size was so large that it let really big companies qualify as like people who are eligible for small businesses. And then they made the small businesses have to jump through additional hoops. So instead of the Kennedy Center, who just got like free helicopter money, like, wee, here's your money, they had to actually apply. They had to go through a process. They had to go through the banks. They had to produce records. And so what would happen is the banks obviously are going to service their biggest and best clients first. And I recount a story in the book from somebody who sent me what his banker sent them at one of the major banks and said, yeah, we were told, like, don't even process it if it's not above a certain, level. So yeah, you had folks, and obviously I am not deep into the Real Housewives drama, so I can't.
You don't know what you're missing.
No, she's too busy writing books. She's got no time. I got no time for that TV show.
But,
bring me some water. I can't stop.
But some of the ones that I did detail, Kanye West was amongst the most egregious, because at that time he was out courting Forbes to put him on the Forbes billionaire list. And he was also unveiling this big project with the Gap, Easy Time Gap, that they said was going to be worth all this money. Yet he was able to get to the front of that line. Tom Brady, who we all know is worth a whole lot of bucks, his TB12 company got money. Floyd Mayweather's production company, people who were related to all kinds of people within Congress and the Trump administration, like just on and on and on.
I mean, even like Reese Witherspoon, who puts herself out there as like this person who's an advocate for the little man and Me Too and everything. And she has this company. She is worth, according to Forbes, $540 million, more than $500 million. And she took millions of dollars in PPP for one little company that she has, where she has like 15 employees. You couldn't pay them yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that was the crazy thing. So first of all, I learned that Reese Witherspoon had a company, and it had, I guess, 44 employees that she was able to keep on the payroll. But again, if you're somebody who's worth that level of financing and had other access to capital to stay afloat, you are not at risk in the same way that your dry cleaner or pizza place or bar or nail salon or hair salon or trade show vendor, whatever, these super micro businesses that don't have access to capital. And I mean, in a sense, I kind of don't blame the people. I mean, this is the way it works. Like, everybody's getting free handouts from the government, like, I'm gonna, like, heck, they're giving money, like, I'm gonna go get mine. It was the people who structured this. It was the politicians who structured this so that they could direct cash to cronies and say, look, we helped small business. We made sure Kanye West got his PPP loan. I mean, that's really where the blame lies, in my opinion. And, it was one of those things, like, my accountant said, hey, you could qualify. And I was like, absolutely not. I mean, not to say that my business wasn't affected, but like, I wasn't in financial dire straits.
Right.
So, obviously that's just a moral choice if you want to take that money or not. But I don't really blame the people who took it, because they put it out and they knew that they were giving away trillions of dollars to like everyone and their brother. So like, why not? Like, you're giving it to the airlines who've been bailed out before and furloughed employees and whatnot. You're giving it to the Kennedy Center, which was closed down and had furloughed employees. And they wanted to have a deep cleaning of a building that wasn't even open. And they had like $500 million in assets. So like, everybody's standing in line to get their government dollars, which by the way, aren't government dollars. They're our dollars. And that's the part that's super frustrating.
Well, that's why it's infuriating. Like today, the story broke that all these bachelor and bachelorettes were getting PPP money because they were influencers.
The influencer business is a hard business, Cooper. Come on. No, but listen, those are probably sole proprietorships. They're probably smaller businesses, but some of the ones that I read about, it didn't really sound like they were ongoing businesses that had people on the payroll that had been hurt by the pandemic.
Right.
And that's the issue here, is that you had the government who said some businesses were essential and some were non-essential, and we're going to shut you down, and we're going to do this for the good of society, which under the Constitution, if you take people's property for the good of society, that's called eminent domain, and they are due just compensation, and they were not appropriately compensated for it. And then all kinds of money went to other nonsense. And so, really, it was an attack on small business, and it's the smallest of small businesses. It's businesses owned by minorities and women and in vulnerable areas that don't have other access to capital. Those are the ones that couldn't hang around. And it's infuriating. I mean, we have a story here in Chicago. Southport Lanes has been around for almost 100 years. They survived prohibition as a bar.
Wow.
But couldn't survive the COVID mandates. And it just kind of puts into perspective. And, that's one of hundreds of thousands of stories of businesses that were just shuttered completely forever. Millions more, I think are at risk. And again, this is all by government mandate. And that's the part that should really scare people. That the people who are connected made these decisions. It wasn't based on data or science, right? There was no
need.
This was based purely on clout and connections. And if you're not in that club, which by the way, most of us are not, scare the heck out of you.
Yeah, we have David Seeley online. He said as a small business, he got 2 PPP loans. He's grateful for it, but was super scrutinized on the conditions. So, businesses did have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get that.
Yeah, and there were some people, obviously, depending on the structure of your business, that didn't qualify. There were people who had bad credit scores and couldn't get them, which is very different than the people who were connected, who were just, able to get the direct bailout. And it's so different than the treatment that happened during the financial crisis, because the banks, they were the ones who actually did some bad things, and they were too big to fail, and they got a taxpayer bailout directly. But here, this was, of no fault of the small business owners. They were just mandated non-essential. And then they were like, well, you're too small to matter, or you're too hard to control. And so, maybe some of you will get some crumbs, but don't bother us.
Now, Carol, in your book, I love that you almost start out with this story. It's like in chapter 3, you're already talking about the controversial Dallas hairdresser, Shelley Luther. Explain who she is. Tell us her story as it relates to the war on small business, because I found the whole thing fascinating as somebody whose best friend owns a hair salon in New York City. And I'll tell you what happened with him, but explain who Shelley Luther is in case people forgot.
So Shelley Luther is an entrepreneur. She owns a salon in the Dallas area called Salon a la Mode. And she, like many others, heard 15 days to flatten the curve. We need to flatten the curve just so that we give the healthcare professionals some breathing room. This was never, by the way, about eradicating the virus. This was literally just flatten the curve. That was what was sold to us. Slow the spread. We're slowing the spread. We're going to flatten the curve. And so, she said, fine, for 2 weeks, I'll shut down. And then 2 weeks became 3, and then 3 became 4. And I think it was somewhere between week 4 and 5. Her stylists were like, we need to eat. We need to pay our families. So we're going to go do this in people's houses if you don't open the salon. And she's like, well, I need to make sure that I earn a living. I need to make sure that these stylists who, which is not unusual in an industry like the hair salon, aren't actually employees. They're contractors.
That's right.
So I'm going to go ahead.
They rent a chair. Yeah.
They rent the chair and they do their own sort of independent business, and they pay the rent back to her. And so I'm going to open it back up, and I feel like I can do this safely. I can, put in place certain protocols and make sure people are more spaced out, more sanitization or whatever it is. And, she kept getting these citations, and she was just like, too bad, my property rights, like, you're not paying me, whatever. And, after several citations were ripped up, she was hauled into court and she was thrown into jail.
Mm-hmm.
This was major news. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, like at the very beginning of COVID, that Dallas hairdresser, that this is the woman we're talking about.
This is in Texas. And this is where this becomes like a nonpartisan issue, is like this. Yeah, yes, you can kind of say a lot of the blue states were worse, but this was in Texas. Texas threw a hairdresser in jail. Now, granted, then they changed it around after, big media fallout and different senators stepping up and the lieutenant governor, offering to go under house arrest instead. And I think he actually, it's in the book, he paid her fine. But yeah, I mean, it's just an incredible story. And then the crazy thing is, like, right before she was hauled into jail, she found out she got a PPP loan, but she wasn't sure if she would actually have to pay it back because of the structure of her business, because they weren't employees, they were contractors. And so based on the way the program was structured, that didn't really count. So at this point, she's completely distrustful of the government anyway. So she's like, I'm not going to touch that money because I don't know that it's going to be forgiven as was promised. And that happened to a lot of small business owners, because they changed the rules 35 times within like the first month time period on what was required. And by the way, to this day, there are still things that are changing around. I had somebody who emailed me today, a small business owner, in a panic. I'm going to try and help her because she had qualified through the SBA for grant relief money. And then was told, the methodology we use might have been discriminatory because we prioritize women and Native Americans first or whatnot. And so we have to go in the order was received. So the money that we promised you for your establishment is now going to be taken, you're not going to get it. Mm-hmm. So they really care about small businesses.
Right. And, and the thing is, she was just out there saying that she was open, but I know for a fact that there's a lot of salons that were doing like Prohibition, where they weren't advertising they were open. They were on the down low, like calling clients, being like, "Hey, if you want to come in Monday, it'll look shuttered, but
use the code word,
and that's exactly what they were doing, right? And they were going to people's houses, but she wasn't forcing people to come get their hair did. Like she was open. If people want to get their hair done, they understand COVID. They understand she was taking precautions. People were wearing masks.
Right.
So, and it's like, what about personal responsibility? But yet she became the poster child for, somehow she was like a Karen, when she was just somebody that was trying to open a salon and have a business and make money.
You're not a Karen for, pursuing your economic freedom. I mean, and let's just be clear, the people who are outraged about that, the reality is that all of the big businesses were still open. Like you could still go to your liquor store. You could still go to your weed dispensary. You could still go to your big box retailer. Amazon's warehouse was still working. There were all these places.
Home Depot was open. All the grocery stores were open. Everything was open. You're right. So why couldn't she be open?
All these places where people were congregating. And by the way, in New York, the same thing happened at the end of the year when Cuomo decided he was going to shut down restaurants a second time at the end of the year, or a third time, whatever it was. And his own contact tracing system said only 1.4% of COVID cases had been traced back to restaurants.
That's right.
So why, if the data shows you that's not where the cases are coming, why would that be the place that you're shutting down? Unless, again, there's a sort of political reason for it. And that, that's the through line that you need to follow. And I don't care if you think that it's intentional or unintentional, like they're too small to matter or they're too hard to control. The fact of the matter is that you have this consolidation of power with big government and big businesses, and it's just making the big businesses bigger, the wealthier people wealthier, and the small people who represent the opportunity to pursue economic freedom and to gain their own wealth through business ownership or other kinds of ownership they're making it much more difficult, and they're saying, like, don't do this. And so if you just kind of put those things together, as I said, I don't care what the intentions are, the outcome is awful for the little guy.
The story about Pineapple Grill.
Pineapple Hill Saloon
and Grill in LA. You've got to tell that story, because I read it twice because I was like, wait, no, I must have missed something, because there's no way that this is what happened.
Yeah, this is a crazy story. This was a community restaurant in the greater LA area. I think it's Sherman Oaks. And they decided they were going to spend a lot of money to transform their outdoor seating. It was $80,000 that they spent so that they could be more safe. We know that COVID doesn't spread outside like it spreads inside. And, they were going to do the right thing so that they could keep their business going and operating. So think about that, an $80,000 investment. And late in the year, Mayor Eric Garcetti, over the LA, I guess they were in LA County, said, sorry, we're going to shut down outdoor seating. So you've got this community business that now can't have outdoor seating, despite that they, spent all this money. No reimbursement, by the way, for that money. At the same time that's happening, there is a movie production that not only gets a permit to shoot the movie, but they're able to set up a catering tent to feed the cast and the crew, literally like hundreds of feet away from the outdoor seating in the same parking lot as the Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill.
Amazing.
So again, if you're going to go with like, okay, this was based on data and science, how is one set of outdoor seating not okay, and the other set in the same parking lot, like feet away, okay? And it turns out, not only, is this like, the movie industry having the clout, but the lobbyist for this was a friend of Governor Gavin Newsom,
who you brought. Right. I love that you bring up this part of the story too, about him dining with this person.
Right. And so they were caught dining together which they shouldn't have been, right? Because it's dangerous.
It's COVID, right?
At this fancy restaurant in California called the French Laundry. And so that that's how that happened. By the way, let's give a shout out to Gavin Newsom. I had a tournament on Twitter. It was a shameful 16 worst governors for small business. And Gavin Newsom was crowned the worst governor for small business in the entire nation after, by the way, a heated battle because people were upset that certain governors didn't even make it into the 16. So it was like hard to get into the 16. And then it was just like,
congratulations.
Congratulations for being such a loser, but a winner.
We're all from there. But, things like that are why the people of Twitter voted Gavin Newsom the worst governor for small business. But there were a lot of them. And it, again, is purely politics. And if you're not connected, it should scare you.
The book is The War on Small Business, How the Government Used the Pandemic to Crush the Backbone of America. Carol Roth, you are once again amazing, and great stories in the book. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And there's your song.
And $1 million or something for you.